Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy. Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We're recording this on Good Friday, and our internets are not being good today. We're gonna
sinners.
That's what we
Burn
get.
The witch. Burn them.
We'll do the best we can, but we're very excited to talk to you today about our topic. It's a serious one. We are the show that talks about creeps from the past to the present. This is sort of a creepy event, and we have people that are creeps, but there's just a lot that went wrong. We have a basic Facebook page you can like. That's a great place to go if you don't go into our private Facebook group. Bye-oh. We have a basic Facebook page, and that's where people usually go to complain about our language because we use salty language in this program.
Fuck yeah.
But we also have a private Facebook group, and we're just really more interactive in the Facebook group. You do have to answer 3 questions, and you do have to have a Facebook page that is older than 2 days. I'm smart. You can't. I'm wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Warning you all, my bad New England accents will be coming out. Just
Ooh, my favorite.
Yes. We are on Twitter at CreepPod, as long as Twitter still exists.
Yeah, for now.
For now. We put it at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for over 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. Please follow us there if you have Instagram. Also, we just have a basic old-timey email if that's how you want to reach out. What a Creep Podcast, spelled it all out, at gmail.com. And we have some stickers. If y'all would like some stickers, wherever you are on the planet of Earth, we'll send you stickers. It's also a great place for suggestions. And I want to thank Joanne, one of our members, who suggested this episode today. And I think,
ooh,
yeah, so that's why.
Like, we love suggestions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne.
Joanne sent a really great email, and because I didn't realize it was the 20th anniversary for this.
Oh,
it just happened recently. So,
all right.
So, Sonia, do you want to tell them about the website?
Yes, I'll be spending some time on there this weekend. In fact, it is at whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but were afraid to ask. It has links to all of our past episodes, and in each of those little posts are show notes, because we source every single thing that we do. We're not making this stuff up, and we want to give credit where credit is due. So go ahead and check that out. There's also a link to our merch shop, where you could get t-shirts and tote bags and journals and face masks, because maybe next year never goes out of style. Please go check out our merch shop, and there's a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. That's a way to support the show monetarily if you would like to do so. I'd like to thank Shonda and Yvonne for signing up recently. We put up our first 5 seasons on there. Those are all really good ones there. Also, we put out 2 bonus episodes a month, and we put out a newsletter every month. Sonia puts that together.
Check your inboxes soon.
So thank you both for signing up and for doing that. And it just helps us pay for the cost of like the software and all the news places that we subscribe to and all that crap. So thank you very much. But if money is tight, we totally trust us. We totally get that. If you could
we do.
We totally do. And I want to thank the person who said loved the podcast. And he also sent us a really nice email recently that for leaving us 5-star on iTunes, which is really helpful. Thank you, because we do get shitheads that try to, or yuck our yum by putting 1-star reviews. They try to dim our shine. So
yes, they're just, ladies hurt my fifis, or I don't like it when they talk about Scott Baio.
Margot, mouth breather, no like.
Thumbs down, 1 star.
1 star. Alrighty, so I think we got through all the big stuff at the top, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Today's episode, it's like I said, this is an intense subject. It's about a nightclub fire, and it's one of the biggest fires that has ever occurred in the U.S. There were 100 people exactly who died. Well over 200 people were injured, and it's a frightening story. I think it's an important one, and I'm going to explain why, but because I think, let me just be clear, I think we take for granted when we go to spaces that everything's going to be safe.
Yes.
And they're not always. So just keeping that in mind. So let me give you the top of the show rigmarole, and then I'll give you, I have my sources. It's pretty extensive. And like Sonia says, they're all in the show notes. You know, if you swipe the art, you should be able to link to them.
And we have a really great non-creep at the end, everybody.
We do. Thank you for remembering that. We always end the show with a non-creep to help you feeling a little bit better about the world.
We're going to end strong, y'all.
Yes, we will. On Thursday, February 20th, 2003, so it was 20 years ago, at 11:07 p.m., the band Great White, which was this 80s metal band here in America, Rhode Island. It's a rock club called The Station. They started with a blast of pyrotechnic sparks. Singer Jack Russell quickly observed that the stage and ceiling were catching fire, and the crowd of over 460 people then had to leave the building. And there was basically one exit. Within 6 minutes, the building was engulfed in flames. 6. Over 100.
That's not enough time.
And it's in 90 seconds basically that the real rush happened. That the fire got worse and worse and worse. And we'll talk about why. Killed 100 people eventually. It was 96 that night. The youngest was 18 years old. It injured 230 people. We will discuss the tragedy, what happened. So my sources are Wikipedia page for the Station nightclub fire, Providence Journal, CBS 48 Hours, The Hour, which is in Norwalk, Connecticut, report of the technical investigation of the Station nightclub fire was released by U.S. government, FEMA, June 2005. WPRI, NBC News, The New York Times, a YouTube channel called Wonder, The Cinemaholic, Boston Globe, Daily Mail, and also I would want to put out 3 books I want to recommend. First is John Barelick. He's a lawyer that helped the families, called Killer Show, and it's really good. It reads like a thriller. They work so hard to try to help these people. There's From the Ashes, Surviving the Nightclub Fire by Gil Russo, and there's also Trial by Fire by Scott James. I want to begin by just talking about going into my experience and my experience with the East Coast and New England. I grew up here on the East Coast, but I work for a company called West Marine, and I was handling their events and promotions and stuff like that. And they do these all around the country. Whenever there's a grand opening or a reopening, we would try to make a big deal out of it, try to get in the paper, try to get the mayor to come by and make a proclamation. You have a party, or we would have charity events or whatever to try to get. And my point is that, and I've done maybe 100 of these. Every city you go to has a bunch of different rules.
Yes.
Can you be in the parking lot or not? Can you have an afternoon event, or does it have to be when the store is closed? Or are you not allowed to do something when the store is closed? Do you have glassware, or can you just use plastic? Can you have wine? Can you not? How many people are allowed? There are rules for everything. And you have to get so many things signed off. And this is just for a dumb store opening.
Yes.
But it made me think of just how much work it is to get a nightclub going, or a gym or store or whatever. You do have to pass fire inspections, which can seem like a pain in the ass, but we count on people doing that. You know, I won't go to a restaurant that doesn't have the grade we do that in New York. We put a grade.
Right.
You know, if it's not grade A, I'm not going in. Like, there's...
Right. Why would you risk it? There's plenty of other places to eat.
Right. And so here we have this nightclub, Warwick, Rhode Island. It's a town of 28,000.
Okay.
The state of Rhode Island has 1 million people. It's small. It's little. It's small and mighty.
Tiny but mighty.
Tidy but mighty. Yes. And there's a club called The Station. This property had a lot of different names over the years. It opens in like 1946. It's 4,000 square feet. And sometimes it's a restaurant. Sometimes it's a bar. Sometimes it's a disco. Sometimes it's a place just for pool. When we get to Didarian brothers, Jeffrey and Michael, like 1999-ish, 2000, They want to. One of them is is a TV reporter, and so he and his brother. And I'm not sure what the brother does, but Jeffrey was on, or Jeffrey or Michael, I forget which one is the one that's on television all the time.
Okay.
But doesn't make a lot of money, and he and his brother are thinking, like, why don't we buy this club and we'll make it a rock club? And this whole culture of bands that had a lot of popularity at one point, and then maybe it kind of, one day you're playing the garden, one day you're playing at the station. That's the music business. It goes up and down. Sometimes you have a few rough years, and then you're part of a nostalgia act, and they put like 4 bands together, and you go sell out a big place. Sometimes
absolutely. I've been to these shows. By the way, they're super fun. I love to go to, like, we have like the old school funk fest, and it's like The Time and MC Hammer, and that shit is so fun. It's so fun. And they're still great musicians and amazing singers.
Yeah. Well, hair metal gets made fun of, and sometimes for good and sufficient reason. It's a type of music, came out mid to late 80s, and then if you know your music history, grunge comes along, and apparently Kurt Cobain killed everybody with their just their popularity. Nirvana but they were game changers. And some bands, you go back to a smaller crowd, and then sometimes you gain this following, and then you partner with other bands, and like Poison and Rat and all those guys can like tour together and sell big spaces.
Yes.
This club is
I've seen Def Leppard and Foreigner,
which is a perfect combo.
They tour.
Yeah. So, like a lot of times in the summer, like state fairs, which is a great time for me, like do it in the afternoon so I don't have to, be there all night. But yeah, it's a living. Show business isn't easy. Not everybody succeeds.
Yes.
It's, it just goes,
and it's a business.
It's a business, people there to make money. So the station, they're investing is every once in a while, they'll like once or twice a month, they're going to have a bigger named band. And then the rest of the time they'll feature local bands and or cover bands. And cover bands are big business. I mean, not huge money, but if you're a Kiss fan and you can't afford to see them at the Garden because it costs $200 a ticket for the nosebleeds, you go someplace and pay like $20 and 2 beers, and it's a good time. And one of my favorite shows was Super Diamond. It's a Neil Diamond tribute band. It was like one of the best times of my life.
I just went recently and saw a cover band, and they were called Mustache Harbor, and they do all yacht rock songs.
That's amazing.
I had the best time. I was like, this is my music.
So this is the kind of music that they play. It's white working class. The crowd. So this is 2003. So a lot of these people are in their 30s and 40s. So they were young or they were teenagers when this band was popular. So Great White, they were formed actually in the late 70s, but they had a big hit in like 87, I believe it was, with Once Bitten, Twice Shy.
Yes, that's the only one I know.
The bands would have like a drinking song, a stadium song, and like a power ballad. Like that was usually what you needed to say you were a real band. And that was usually enough for you to like at that time, and you had big enough hair, you could go.
Margot had big enough hair.
Oh my God, my hair was gigantic. I'm a rock chick.
My hair was pretty big too. You were definitely a rocker chick.
I'm a rock chick. This speaks to my heart because I'm a rock chick at heart. So like if you say like, oh, I'm going to see this band in a smaller place, and we're going to meet and have some beers and check them out, I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. You go to the Garden or whatever, and it's fun, but it's not exactly an intimate experience.
Correct.
Right. So the station is bought by the Didarian brothers. They're running this place, and they kind of have this reputation for they're desperate to make money, and they're desperate to just like fill the place up. And so they're constantly at first when this space, which once again is 4,000 square feet, when it was a restaurant, it had a maximum capacity of 50. By the time that the brothers 50.
Wow.
So by the time these brothers come along, it's around like 250 that you could put in there. And it's not enough for them to like pay a staff and pay their rent. And these guys are I mean, I'm reading all this stuff, and especially once again, the Killer Set book was really, really Killer Show. Excuse me. He did a really good job of sort of explaining some of the things that they did to try to grease the wheels. And this is the thing when you're working locally. I know this because when my brother died, he lived in Quincy, Massachusetts, which is kind of around in this area. And I didn't know anybody anywhere. Finding someone who to be the lawyer, finding someone to be my advocate, to like go to the courthouse and make sure things go through. It's just, I'm sure it would be so much easier if I knew somebody or I had a family member there. You're just trusting someone. So these guys, it's a super small town and they know everyone and everyone kind of knows them. And they have a person that, they have fire marshals that are set up and they're supposed to go in there. Dennis LaRoque is his name. And there's a few people that came through the space over the years, but there's two things that stood out for a lot of people. A few things, actually. One, that the windows were barred up. They were very, very dark. They were always trying to keep, it's also in the middle of like a suburb, like there's neighbors nearby.
Yeah.
And if you ever live near a club, it's not fun.
Yeah. This is a thing that's going on in San Francisco right now, where a lot of housing has popped up around clubs like Bottom of the Hill or Slim's or, Great American Music Hall. And then these people that live there complain about the noise. And it's like, LOL, you moved in above a rock club.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's annoying on a Thursday night at 11 o'clock to have like loud sounds everywhere. Yeah. That would be annoying. So one thing, it's the windows. Another thing is the back door that they use as the stage door for the band to go in and out. The doors push in. They don't push out. They push in. Yeah. And there's two of them. There's like two sets of doors that push in. So that push that face into the building, and you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And we learned this from, we'll put the link in the show episode where we talked about The Who, and there was a concert in Cincinnati where they had the doors and the doors were facing the wrong way, and that's what caused, it's called not a stampede, it's called a crowd crush when people are pushed together. So
Margot did an amazing episode about that on her Not Fade Away. It's so well done and like such a great a really great I don't want to say great description. It makes it sound like great, but because it's so awful, but like you really gave a sense of like what goes on there,
right?
Like how all the air just kind of gets sucked out of the room. It was very, very well done.
I'll put a link in the show notes for y'all.
Yes.
Also, what they had in there was, they said it was the people before them that had the place before them, but they put this foam on the walls, and that's to soundproof it. And they put it behind the stage, and they put it on the door that's next to the stage. And it's just cheap looking foam. No one apparently checked to see if it was flammable. And it was glued to the walls. And
I assume this was for soundproofing, right?
It's for soundproofing. It's not for looks. Yeah. It's definitely just for soundproofing. What should have happened is Fire Marshal Dennis LaRoque, he should have taken, it's like this called like the 1 inch test. What they do is they cut an inch and then they see if they can light it and how quickly it lights.
Okay.
And he never did that. He never reported about the foam on the doors, on the wall, on anything. And it's the one thing you can really notice. And it's such cheap stuff that it was highly flammable. If it was just the regular foam stuff, it might have been a little bit more not fireproof. Nothing's really fireproof, but it could have been better. But so they have this club, and the Darian brothers, they're there for just a couple of years, and they're like, ugh, this is so much work for not a lot of money. We need to sell this place. And this is just a few months before the accident happens. And they make a deal with one family, and the family wants to buy the club, but they say, look, we need to know what your numbers are. Like what brass tacks, like how much, what's the money here? And the brothers said, you give us a $20,000 deposit, we'll show you our books. And they do it. They put out a loan. And basically the books are seriously just a book. It's not like a computer with like stats or anything.
Right.
And they're saying, well, how many people bought tickets? Well, this is the thing. Like when there's a local bar, if they sell out, the owners are just like, oh, I'll just put you on the list. here's my business card. That's your ticket. Or just call this person.
Right.
They'll put you on the list. Or come in and work the merch table for an hour and then I'll get you in free. So this couple, they're appalled by all this. And then they tell them, we want our money back. This is bullshit. Because they actually, by the way, they didn't actually own the place. They were leasing it. So they're trying to sell it, but they didn't really own it. Like, I'd like to sell my place. It's pretty big, but I can't do that.
I'm like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works at all. And these guys tell this couple, look, when we get another offer, we'll pay you back. They're such sleazes. I'm sorry. This is such bullshit.
Oh, my gosh.
And by the way, they're pushing it up and pushing up. Like, how do we get this to 250? How do we get this to 300 people? And finally they tell LaRoque, like, we need to bring 400 people in this space at one time. That's the only way we're going to make money. And he basically gives them the okay and says, all right, 400 people. Now, you've been to my apartment. You people out there have not. Sonya's been to my apartment. It's L-shaped. If you're doing doing something in my living room, you can't see it from my office. You have to.
Correct.
There's no sight lines. It's the same thing at this club.
Okay.
The stage is like 1/3 of the space. There's 2 other areas where people can hang out. So if you go and see a band, they say like 400 people can fit in here. If you take out all of the furniture.
Yes.
And every stick of furniture. So nobody could show up with a bad back or a bad ankle or something. Like, everyone has to just stand.
You don't get to sit down. Yes.
No.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I would not go. I would never go to this.
I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't make it. Young Margot, absolutely. This Margot, no fucking way. She needs, bar stools make me crazy. And in that amount, he says every person has about 5 feet of space in an emergency. But what happens is when the show starts, what does everybody do? They go to the stage. So
yes, they rush the stage.
They rush the stage, and then it's a small space, and you can't move.
Yes.
So people know. By the way, February, when this takes place, February 19th, the day before, all this snow dropped. It's very cold. But you go into this club with the boarded up windows, with the fracata foam everywhere. It heats up like crazy. So,
I bet.
when you go, you've done this when you go into clubs, like you're wearing a T-shirt underneath everything. You got to take clothes on and off. All right. So the club is pushing it at 400 people. They're not supposed to, but it's one of those wink and a nod kind of things. Like, he's just letting it go. LaRoque never gives any citations for it. He just lets it go.
Is it possible LaRoque was thinking they couldn't get 400 people? Like, I'll give them permission, but they'll never get that many people anyway, so who cares?
I don't understand the thinking, to be honest with you, because this man was a fireman at one time. Like, you had to be you had to work at a firehouse before you could be a fire marshal. So you think he would understand how fires work and how quickly they can spread, how panicked people get. That's the thing that'll get to you. It's that's not fair. Sometimes people say things like, oh, I'm so aware that nothing can ever happen to me. And it's like, no, that's not how life works. But it's good to be aware. It's good to have some information. There had been nightclubs deaths, and we'll talk about probably other ones. But recently there was one in Chicago, and it was 2 girls were at a nightclub and they were fighting. And the bouncer pepper sprayed them.
Gosh.
Mayhem fucking ensued. And there was one exit and a bunch of people got hurt. So our Didarian brother, that's the reporter, I forget if it's Jeff or Michael, who gives a shit, but he's like, I know, I'm trying to sell this nightclub. I've got somebody interested. He does get somebody interested, but I'll do some publicity. This is what he's thinking. And they don't say this, but this is me saying this. They're thinking of the publicity. We'll have Great White at our club, people yelling, having a great old time. It's showing how safe our nightclub is. And it'll attract some business, and it'll attract somebody who wants to buy the fucking place. And it'll also somebody that'll come play, right? It's publicity, and everybody needs some. Let's go to Great White. Great White, they had their great times. And Jack Russell's the lead singer. And by 2000, he's not doing great. It'd been a while. He hadn't had a hit in a while. He owed a lot of money in taxes. He wasn't getting the kind of gigs he used to get. It's a sad story, and it's
sadly common.
And it's also just being in the arts. It's just it's the career you choose. It's kind of youth based. It's not fair, but that's just how it is. He files for bankruptcy and decides to tour with Jack White's Great White. So he had lost the name. He had sold it years before. He lost the rights to his songs. Like, this guy was really struggling. What do? You do the best that you can. So if this is what I can get, I can, he puts a band together and they tour these littler spots around the country, charging like $5,000 a night. After you pay everybody, it's not a lot of money, but you're doing what you like and you hope you sell enough merch and maybe one day the band will get back together again. You've heard these stories before.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk about when bands go to shows. So he has his manager is a young man named Dan Beakley, excuse me. And Beakley worked with these metal bands, Wasp. He worked with Wasp and they were doing their tour through there.
Oh, nice.
So he likes rock bands, and he was the one that was in charge of putting off these rockets during the show. And it's not like the kind you put over your shoulder and shoot in the air. It's just like stuff like out of your hand, you just poof. And it's called, they're called a 15 and a 15. 15 and 15s are 15 feet up and 15 seconds going out and sparkling and then nothing. And he does this around the country. 75% of the time, the clubs are like, sure, do your show. We're fine. We're safe. You could do it. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, somebody's like, that's the stupidest thing. And then people would say, like, why don't you use confetti or anything like that? And if you ever try to clean up confetti, like, no club's going to ask you to come back. It's,
It's like when someone sends you a birthday card with glitter in it.
I love my friend Deb. She gives me cards. She and her sister give me cards for every holiday. I've learned to, like, be near the trash can when I open it because it's always filled with stuff.
Yes.
But it's fun. But it's not fun when you're trying to get out of a wood floor with beer all over it and stuff like that. Like, it's not fun. Smoke machines and fog machines are expensive. Bubbles aren't cool. Like, somebody's like, why don't you shoot bubbles into the crowd? Like, I'm a rock band. I can't shoot bubbles. That's pussy. So he has these little firecracker thingies, firework thing. And so he would shoot them off. And sometimes you're allowed to. Sometimes you're not allowed to. And so they come to the station nightclub. And I want to read you something. There's something called in a contract when you're a musician, whatever you're doing, when you're going on the road and you're playing a place, and it's called your contract rider. And it's all the things the place needs to do to make you feel comfortable. This is how much it's going to cost. We'll show up at this time. We'll do these interviews. We want this kind of water, this kind of beer.
I want all brown M&Ms.
That's the Van Halen. So I'm glad you brought that up. Van Halen in the 70s, when they first started becoming famous and their opening act and touring with like Black Sabbath and people like that, they had pyrotechnics with their show. And they noticed that people sometimes would just not follow directions and the stuff would go off at the wrong time, or somebody could get electrocuted. I mean, it was really dangerous sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think, didn't the lead singer of Metallica get hurt?
Yeah, James Hetfield, yes.
Yeah.
See, you know some metal news. You did your metal lore.
I know. I'm not a rocker chick, but I do know some rock trivia.
So Van Halen, this is like 78, 79. They're tired of this. So it's very childish, but they put in their rider that we need this much beer, wine, Coke, whatever. We want a bowl of M&Ms with all the green ones taken out, or all the brown ones. I forget now. I knew the green ones were supposed to make you horny. That was the rumor when I was a teenager. Did you ever hear that?
I absolutely remember that, which makes me think they want
the brown ones out.
All the brown ones out. That maybe they want all green M&Ms.
Right. That should have been smart. The hot ones with the high heels.
Yeah.
The eyelashes.
Oh, I'm gonna fuck that M&M. She's so hot. Fucking weirdos.
I love fucking candy. So they had that in their rider, and this was Van Halen's thing. If they didn't see that, they knew they didn't read the rider. Like, they knew they didn't really pay attention to it. So Van Halen's like, then we'll trash our dressing rooms. Not realizing they would get stuck paying for everything.
Whoops.
Oops. So they're talking, this writer is so great. It's for Killer's show. He says, the first clue that you're going to be an over-the-hill rocker is when your catering rider calls for 1 box of Zantac 75. He said that's from Dawkin. And your strangeness quotient is definitely hyped if your rider demands, in addition to the requisite liquor and snacks, 6 pairs of black athletic socks mid-calf. That was for Black Label Society. I don't know who that is. And I love this. He's such a great writer. Wasp's contract for the station specified, in addition to 1 bottle of Mum's Cordon Rouge and champagne, 1 medium-sized jar of creamy peanut butter, and 1 large-sized jar of seedless blackberry or boysenberry jam. Blackie Lawless must be either a picky eater or a very fastidious flosser.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
Right. Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones, he was with the band in like the late 60s and then was fired.
Yeah.
He went to the club in like 2000 and said, I need 7 first-class tickets from London to, from here to London. And they're like, nah, we'll give you a lift to the airport. But you fight with Ford as much as you can.
We'll call you a cab.
We'll put you in an Uber. But
I need chewable baby aspirin and
what would you ask
insoles for my shoes?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what you would ask for. Like, I need a healthy meal. I'm vegan. Like those kinds of things. So the band is coming through. They're going to get $5,000. So that's Eddie Murphy, $5,000.
$5,000.
Beverly Hills Cop joke. Anyway, the crowd shows up. It's super cold. It's also just a place to hang out with your friends. It's a small town and people are hanging at 11:07 p.m. So once again, there's a cameraman with a TV camera, digital camera in the back. They have 462 people in this place when they have a permit for 400.
Wow.
One of those brothers is back at the concert, but the other one is in Florida on vacation. They have a DJ who's Dr. Metal. He had the show called The Metal Zone. He was the talent that was there to introduce the band. So they had 3 bands. By the time Great White gets on, this is another thing that would be a hard no for me. It's like 11 o'clock. No.
Okay, no. See, I'm in bed by 11 o'clock.
I've been in bed already. If I could show up in my pajamas and my retainer,
to be honest, let's be clear. I would have never gone to the show in the first place because I would have been like, oh, there's live music. Bye.
Well, one thing, that would
because I'm old.
I'm old. I can't hear now. Like I can't talk above the band sound or I hate when I meet friends for drinks and even like the DJ at the bartender puts the volume like super high. It's like, I can't get a conversation.
If I have friends here in San Francisco, they're like, come meet me at happy hour for a drink or whatever. And I'm like, sure. And I walk in, and if there's a live band, I will literally turn around and walk right back out. And I'll text them from the street and be like, let's go somewhere else. Because I can't hear. I can't have a conversation with them in there. I am
too many years of going to the
fussy.
Clubs. Yeah, I'm fussy too. But yeah.
Yep.
But look, if you like the band and you want to, the band hits the stage at 11:07 p.m. and they start with a song called Desert Moon. Daniel Beakley, the way his name is spelled is odd here. He ignites the acoustic. He ignites the flammable, the pyrotechnics. And within 30 seconds, the spray goes 15 feet. Once again, it's a 15 by 15, 2 gerbs. The ceiling is 12 feet. So it's just shooting right up.
Here.
Right up.
Okay.
Immediately behind the stage. And there's video you could see of this. The first 90 seconds of this, there's like 6 minutes of video. Because like I said, they have a guy there filming it for this TV station.
That's bananas to me.
Because we never see this stuff. Everything is like...
Yeah.
Anyway, within a few seconds, the flames just start to go up. Jack Russell turns around at about the 20-second mark and says, oh, that's not good. And some people think it's just a part of the show because you just don't know.
Hmm.
And some people are freaked out right away. But they all turn around and there's an exit right behind the stage. That's the band exit. And they hire these guys to be bouncers. Not all bouncers, by the way. There's a bouncer here named Tracy who's wonderful, but there's another guy that's a bouncer. There's two bouncers actually that have this rep afterwards of really taking their job seriously, that no one can go to that door. The band goes out that door, and that was the door I mentioned before that like leads in.
Swings in.
Swings in, thank you. So the band gets out right away, and then the door gets on fire. That door gets on fire. So then the people are trying to go out the front door. And there are two other exits, but they're not clearly marked. And the smoke that comes from the foam turns the air black.
Oh my gosh.
Within 2 gulps of air, you're rendered powerless. You can't see.
Yeah.
You can't hear. You can't breathe. The heat goes from 80 degrees or whatever, like the time, you're on stage, and to over 1,000 degrees. This is Fahrenheit. The cameraman is, just because he's trained to do it, well, first his instinct is to get out. Like he's filming what's happening, and then you can tell like he realized like, oh shit. But as he's trying to get out, he's trying to film at the same time, which is blocking the exit a bit. So he is causing a problem.
Yeah.
He gets out of the building and he comes up to the front. And the front is the main doors where people were, he got out a sideway. And there was still a bunch of people behind him, but they were at least moving quickly. Then you go to the main doorway, which is everyone goes to where they came in. That just seems to make the most sense, right? You just go where you entered. So he goes by there, and it's people piled on top of each other. And they are screaming for help. The smoke is so thick. And even if I'm saying people on top, you can see this. People are on top of each other. Even if you're out to your waist, with your arms out, your chest out, there's no guarantee anyone can help you because the people are wedged in. It's like a pyramid that happens, and they're crushed next to each other.
It's awful.
That's at the 90-second mark. It burns for another 5 minutes.
Jesus.
Yeah. The thing about it being a small town is people can react quickly to emergencies, and every fireman everywhere was there right away. And they said, and when you see it, the flames are incredible. This stuff that they put on the walls is about the most flammable thing out there. I mean, there was nothing stopping it. And the fire was feeding itself. And the fire feeds itself by taking oxygen, right? And you already feel like you're all crushed together, so you're losing oxygen that way. Plus you're burning. People really tried to be heroic. I mean, they took their tire irons to break open the windows, but they can't see through the windows because they were already closed up. They were painted over. Right. So they can't tell if someone's in there unless they hear them screaming. So you're taking your tire iron, just whack it into a window, hoping you don't hurt somebody worse, and also hoping you can get them out. And these people are burning. It's so hot that their skin is just melting.
So fucking awful. Like, what a nightmare.
People came right away. They were taken to hospitals. There were hospitals all over New England that took these people right away. The police still have PTSD from this. The first responders that helped. 96 people were killed, and then eventually 4 more died. So exactly 100 people died.
Wow.
And then there's over 200 people that have injuries from... You don't want to get burned. You just don't want to get burned. You and I've been badly injured on disability. You've had cancer twice.
Yeah.
We know what it's like, when you have health care and when you're having like a dozen operations in a year, 2 years.
Yes.
It's expensive. It's hard to find people to help you. It's hard for the family to take care of you. Plus the trauma of everything.
Yes. I think people think all the time it's like 6 people were killed and 30 were injured, and they're like, injured. Like, people don't really think about it. And it's like, injured doesn't mean like, and then they got a broken arm or something.
No.
Like, injured can mean this fucked up their life.
Absolutely.
Injured can mean a lot of things. It is a very broad term, but like, these people that were injured from the fire, chances are it wasn't like they got a teeny little burn. These are chances are that it blew up their life in one way or another. It could be that they are severely burned over however much of their body. Maybe they can't walk anymore. Maybe that, all of these things that we dismiss as injured. I don't think we, really think about what that means.
And this is what these people went through and this is an age where people do have cell phones. I mean, they're starting to get cell phones with cameras on them, but we see much more of their progress now. We get much more first person stories. We're first person stories now, where we used to be much more reliant on media to tell us the story. Yeah. This is a small town. Like I said, it's under 30,000 people and 100 people died. You're going to know someone that knows someone.
Yes.
That's just so that infects the town. And that's part of their history now. Mm-hmm. And the story gets out and people are horrified. Once again, they find out they didn't do a match test to see if the stuff was flammable. They didn't take care of the door. They would tell them to take down the door and they'd take it down and then put it back up again because they didn't want to bother the neighbors. There's all just kinds of shenanigans going down. So I'll just move quickly. So in 3 years, they're like, who's responsible? Who would you sue? Who would you put in jail? Who would you put away? Who should be punished? It's hard to say. I mean, the brothers that ran the club, yeah, they certainly fucked up. I mean,
yes.
I think Beakley, who set off the fireworks, absolutely. I know he didn't mean to hurt anyone, but if he hadn't have done it, it wouldn't have happened. Also, the fire inspector, that was on him.
Yeah, he signed off on it. Jack
Russell, because he said do it. Beakley, I think to his credit, they charge him with manslaughter for 100 people. In spite of his attorney's advice, he doesn't plead. He just pleads guilty. He doesn't even go to trial. And he said, I'm sorry for what I've done, and I don't want to cause anyone any more pain. I'll never forget that night, and I'll never forget that the people that were hurt by it. I'm so sorry. He really was very, very sorry. And he could have had 15 years in prison, but he got 11 years and then was out in under 5 years. Some people were furious. They're like, that's nothing. And some people are like, look, he's apologized. What can we do? Brothers.
Well, yeah, and his intention wasn't to harm people.
No one did. Yeah.
But it's really fucked up, and you lost some, your negligence resulted in the death of 100 people. I get it. Like, people will want someone to pay for that. And it's, you're being sorry doesn't bring those people back. And so I understand their frustration, but I also understand that this wasn't his intention.
But you have to send the message too.
Like, yes.
You got to send the message to other people that are managing bands out there that are putting them in nightclubs like this. Like, you got to take your shit seriously. I think. The Dadarian brothers made a deal. One of them served time in prison. They pleaded no contest. And the other one did community service because one of them had younger kids. They served a few years and then they got out. LaRoque, the fire marshal, never charged. He retired pretty quickly. He had
I bet.
Yeah. He doesn't live in that town anymore and never talks about it in public. So who do you sue? They sued the city. So the attorneys have to come up with a way. Jack Russell's guilty. He doesn't have any money. The Dadarian brothers, they don't have any money. And these people need money because this is going to be expensive. It's on top of being injured and being traumatized. You're having that many surgeries. You need that much help. That shit's expensive.
So expensive because our healthcare system's broken.
It's broken. It's super broken. And it's just, that's just you can't just not have the surgeries. I mean, it's not like a thing you could put off. Like, it's the stuff they need to do.
Right.
So the attorneys did civil settlements because they weren't going to get any justice. There were no trials. They didn't put anybody on the stand and really grill them and find out, oh, I'm so sorry, it was my fault. It's nothing like that. So and they're stuck with these bills They're stuck with the tragedy. They're stuck with the grief. They're stuck with pain. And so the only thing people can think to do is like, we have to do some civil settlements. And then they get other places, and I definitely like all those places that I mentioned. You can go way deeper into all this, but I'll just say that they sued everyone from Home Depot to Anheuser-Busch for sponsoring the event, to the speakers, to the people who made the foam stuff. They sued Anheuser-Busch for sponsoring the TV station. The cameraman was sued because he blocked some people. Anyone who could get sued was sued. Anyone that's possible. Jack Russell, he offered $1 million because that's all he had in his insurance plan. The brothers that I talked about had $800,000. That's all they had they could give. The town of West Warwick, paid $10 million for a settlement. That's what they only had $6 million in insurance. So the people still have to pay to help.
Right.
The state of Rhode Island agreed to pay $10 million. The Sealed Air Corporation, that was this company that sold this crap insulation, got $25 million. WPRA was $30 million. Altogether, it's $115 million. This is between 300 people. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
Especially, you know how hospital bills are. You're gonna. It sucks, and a lot of them haven't been paid yet because this is another thing. Because you're in a small New England town. Once again, I hear y'all. I've been through this. Like, there's one person that has to like sign off everything for everybody, and then a judge has to decide how much do you get versus that person. You know, how much does the family of the woman who died there versus a woman who's alive now but has all? I mean, you know, what price tag do you put on people?
How do you? Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know how you make those decisions.
It's brutal and it's hard. And so let me just end this on a positive note. There is at that very spot now a memorial to the victims. It's really pretty. It's really, all of the victims are honored there. And a lot of bands put together, you know, they did some funds and they did some big concerts to help raise money for it. And
that's nice.
And it's a lovely park. I forgot to mention the lead, the rhythm guitarist, for Great White. He was killed in there. And some people were upset that he was at the memorial, but I don't think this guy had any kind of power. I mean, he was just a session musician. Like, you do what you're told. You know. Anyway, so they're still figuring it out who gets the money. That is the story of the Station Fire nightclub event.
Good job, Margot. That is gruesome.
Right? I'm so sorry. I tried not to.
No. It's there. While you were talking, I was reminded that something similar happened in Oakland in 2016 here it was the Ghost Ship fire, and a building went up in flames during a party and 36 people were killed. And that one still has involved like lawsuits where I think the owner of the building and his assistant actually were charged with involuntary manslaughter. And I think the county was also sued and had to pay up some people. But again, like, lots of people were injured too. And it's fucking awful. And it's just so scary.
It's really scary. And I don't want to, I want you just like when you're going into a place, like make sure you feel safe, make sure you know where the exits are.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel weird at all, you start to feel uncomfortable, just go. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Trust your gut too.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
But definitely look for the signs, you know, see that they have a fire extinguisher, that they, you know, that these things are taken care of, that they listen to the firemen, that the fire codes are up to date. Just be safe.
You did such a good job on this one, Margot.
Thank you.
Do you want to hear about someone who's not a creep?
Yes, please.
This is going to be a delight, everybody. Inspired by Great White, I decided to talk about Betty White, who surprisingly we have not covered yet as a non-creep.
Yay!
Which I couldn't believe it that we hadn't talked about Betty White yet. Everyone knows who Betty White is, but let's, little intro here. She is Betty Marion White. She was born January 17th, 1922 in Illinois. She actually died December 31st, 2021. She was almost 100. So close.
Almost made it.
But almost made it. She grew up in Los Angeles. She used to do radio shows. She was doing radio shows because she was told she wasn't photogenic.
What?
By the way, Betty White was beautiful. I don't understand that, but she did radio for a while, and then when World War II started, she was like, show business seemed pretty unimportant to her. So she joined the American Women's Voluntary Services and worked as a truck driver.
That's amazing.
She delivered military supplies. Yes. All over Southern California. She did go back to work in Hollywood though. And in 1949, she began doing she was on a show called Hollywood on Television. She was like their quote unquote Girl Friday on the show. And she later took over as host. And in 1952, she co-founded a production company called Bandy Productions. It was named after her dog Bandit. This was in 1952. And she did this to develop her own projects. And she created a sitcom called Life with Elizabeth, and it's very 50s. It's like, woman who gets into various comedic situations and tests the patience of her husband. She co-created.
Did I forget to turn the oven on? Oops.
Yes, totally. This is exactly what it was. But she was it's the same with like I Love Lucy, by the way, y'all. If you go back and watch I Love Lucy, but she co-created and co-produced. She's one of the first women in television to have full creative control in front of and behind the camera. In 1954, she was doing the Betty White Show, and she actually had a man on the show who was a black tap dancer, and a whole bunch of southern states were like, we're going to pull your show if you don't get rid of this man. His name is Arthur Duncan. And she was like, bye. Too bad. She was like, he stays, live with it. That's what she told them. Amazing. In the 70s, she was actually approached to co-host the Today Show and turned it down and paved the way for Barbara Walters, which I thought was very interesting. She was also known as the first lady of game shows. Everybody probably, if you're Gen X, what you probably knew Betty White from was maybe Golden Girls. But so if you're a little older than Gen X, what you probably remember was Betty White was on all the game shows in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. So she used to do To Tell the Truth, What's My Line, Hollywood Squares, the $25,000 Pyramid, and Password. All those shows. Password was hosted by this man named Alan Ludden. Or Luden, I don't know.
Ludden.
But whatever. Ludden. This was her third marriage. They got married in 1963, and they were married until he died in 1981. And on Larry King, he asked her, how come she never remarried? And she said, once you've had the best, who needs the rest?
I'm with her.
So sweet. And, of course she did, she was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the Golden Girls, and she was in Hot in Cleveland.
Yep.
Which I've only seen clips of, but actually I will admit every time I see a clip kind of makes me laugh. So maybe it's a really good show. I don't know. She had a late career resurgence. We did an episode on The Proposal on Dorking Out. Mm-hmm. She hosted Saturday Night Live, in the last couple of years of her life. And she actually won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actress for that.
And that show holds up. That particular episode of Saturday Night Live fucking holds up.
So funny. It's so funny. She has won a ton of shit. She's won 5 primetime Emmys, 2 daytime Emmys, a regional Emmy, comedy awards, Screen Actors Guild. She won a Grammy Award. For her spoken for her audiobook that she did. She was a supporter of LGBT plus Q. Sorry, I don't have the acronym written down here. But she's been a supporter always. She always knew that Liberace was gay, and she used to go with him to events and premieres to help him hide it. I don't think he was hiding it very well, but that's fine. Whatever.
That's hiding.
But the main reason
it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. In that sense.
But the reason she really is a non-creep for many reasons, but one is she's an animal activist. She's an animal welfare advocate. She really puts her money where her mouth is, by the way. She donates her time and her money to these things. And she, worked with the Los Angeles Zoo. She served as a zoo commissioner. She worked on the Morris Animal Foundation, the American Wildlife Foundation. She hosted a show in the 70s called The Pet Set, which was, they used to interview celebrities and they'd bring their pets. I'm I would watch that show now.
Yes.
By the way,
bring the Pet Set back.
Yeah. And, later in life, she said, I'm the luckiest old broad alive. Half my life is working in a profession I love, and the other half is working with animals. And she would say that animals don't lie. They don't criticize. If animals have moody days, they handle them better than most humans do. Very true. She launched a clothing line in 2010, and it's with shirts with her face on them and stuff like that. And all that money goes to animal charities. She's been given a gazillion awards by different animal charities. At 95, she was asked what she attributed her long life to, and she said vodka and hot dogs,
yes.
probably in that order. And I've been listening to Valerie Bertinelli's book enough already, and she talks about Betty White a lot in the book, and she also mentioned the vodka and hot dogs. And she's she's not joking, that Betty White really loves vodka and hot dogs.
But it makes me love her more.
I know, I love her so much. On December 25th in 2021, she suffered a stroke. And then on the morning of December 31st, she died in her sleep at home at 99.
That's a great life.
She had such a good life and just a delight. Nobody is who wouldn't say something bad about Betty White?
B. Arthur, they didn't like each other. Yeah, really? Notoriously. Yeah. They didn't hit it off. B was tough on her.
That surprises me, actually. I'm how could actually, let me rephrase that. It doesn't surprise me that B. Arthur would have problems with someone. It surprises me, though, that somebody wouldn't like Betty White.
Yeah, that's what's shocking. Yeah. But I don't think Betty was too bothered by it. She just shrugged it off.
I don't think she was. I think she clearly always had a good perspective on life. She seemed like a delight. That SNL episode is amazing and hilarious. Mm-hmm. There's the whole thing where she talks about her dry muffin on the SNL on the what is it? The NPR.
Yeah, the NPR show.
Good times. Yeah, good times. I don't like a dry muffin. I just love her. So that's our non-creep Betty White.
Good job, Sonia. And
thank you.
If you like the sound of our voices, if they haven't worn out by now, we also co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. Sonia, what are we going to be dorking out about next?
We're going to talk about Mannequin.
I'm so freaking excited. Talk about 80s flashback.
This movie, I haven't seen it probably since the 80s, so I am looking forward to this rewatch. I know you love some Andrew McCarthy.
I do.
So,
and James Spader.
I love. Yeah, is he in this?
James Spader is playing a dork Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I love Kim Cattrall, so I actually am looking forward to this rewatch. I'm not looking forward to having that song stuck in my head, but that's okay. That's okay. These are the sacrifices I
Right.
make for dorking out.
All right, everyone. So if you have suggestions for creeps or non-creeps, reach out to us in all those places we mentioned at the top of the show. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters, or just be clever and use something on your own, or just send it via email. Once again, it's whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers, let us know. We'll drop them in the mail for you wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening. Seriously, be safe. Always know where the exits are. Don't be a creep.
Be a creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.